Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Clutch Talk podcast / YouTube / We Do It All. As always, I'm your host, John. Very happy to be here. Man, we got a very special guest in the building today, man. I mean, not only is he a great NBA content creator, but he's also a big time Sixers fan, man. So with the playoffs right around the corner, with Joel Embiid having his MVP season, I thought who's better to have than my guy Romp. My guy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Pleasure being here, and I'm excited to talk some hoops.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. That's what we do over here at Clutch Talk, man. We get into the nitty and gritty of the league, man. So for the family out there, you already know what it is, man. Make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, leave a nice comment down below, and make sure you go check out Romp's channel. All his channels will be in the description down below. For the family at home, make sure you grab your popcorn and let's get into it, man. So let's go ahead and kick it off with our guess the player game. The way we're gonna do this, my guy, is I'm gonna tell you where a player got drafted, what round he got drafted, what pick he got drafted, to what team, and I'll tell you what team he went to next, and then if you don't get it at the end of the teams, I'll give you some more hints, and then we'll just go from there. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, is it a current player or is it?
It is a current player. He's a current
Okay,
player.
that makes it much easier for me.
Yeah, no, that narrows it down big time, man. Because I mean, if you got to decide between retired players, Bill Russells and LeBrons, that's hard.
It's very hard.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead and get into it, man. So this player was drafted in the second round. He was the 46th pick. It was in the 2014 draft. Got drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. And then he got traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers, traded to the Utah Jazz.
Whoa, it's a lot. So Lakers, then the Cavs, and then the Jazz. What can I ask for right now? Can I ask for a position?
Yeah, I'll give you a position. Yeah, he could play a 1 or a 2 guard.
Okay, 1 or 2 guard. Man, I'm drawing a blank here.
Currently on the Jazz right now.
The tanking Jazz.
the tanking Jazz. Yep.
I have no clue. I'm gonna be real.
It is all good, man. It is all good. How about I'll give you one more hint.
Oh, I know. It's got to be Taylor Horton Tucker.
Oh, yo, THT is close. It's actually Jordan Clarkson. THT
Clarkson.
is very close, but it's actually Jordan Clarkson. THT would have been a good one. THT would have, because he is on the Jazz right now. My next hint I was going to pick.
What pick was THT? He was a first rounder,
I believe THT was a first round pick. Let's figure it out right here. THT he was also the 46th pick in the second round, but of the 2019 draft. Wow, look at the coincidence.
That's crazy.
I think my guy Romp just knows all the 46 picks in the second round, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I forgot about Jordan Clarkson because he hasn't played in he hasn't played the second half of the season since the Jazz are tanking.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The Jazz came out on fire. He was on fire. The world was loving him, but yeah, I agreed, man. He hasn't seen much of that floor in the second half of the season because it just doesn't make sense for the Jazz, man. They shouldn't try to be a winning team right now. They're trying to go for Vic, man.
Smart.
But all right. So let's go ahead and get into our first episode of the show here, and that is news, updates, and injuries. So we're just going to talk about some news we got around the league, and I got to kick it off with KD had his first game back, man. I mean, Kevin Durant first game back from injury, 16 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists on a terrible 27% from the field. Talk to me your thoughts about that game. Were you able to get a chance to watch that, and how do you feel about that?
I saw the game. I was pretty impressed by the Suns being able to still win the game because KD was really struggling from the field, and it seems like they're starting to find the depth with Okogie and Terrence Ross, sometimes TJ Warren. The Suns they look very, very good, and I think a lot of people kind of underrate their depth because they're not names per se. I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in their depth, but they definitely have some tools. They have some pieces that can potentially help them in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, you're going to win with KD, D-Book, and DeAndre Ayton, and then whatever CP3 gives you at this age. But yeah, the Suns healthy. they got to be one of the most complete teams in the league, especially with the firepower of D Book and Katie. And D Book's playing the best basketball of his career like the last couple of weeks. So I would be afraid of the Suns if I was in the West for sure.
Absolutely, man. I mean, not only just the West. I mean, the entire league has got to be on watch
Mm,
for the Suns right now. And I was super excited. Come this game, I was like, man, KD's first game back because that ankle injury looked really nasty. Like that when he went up for the layup on the left side and then just rolled his ankle. It looked really nasty. Didn't know how much time he was going to miss. Um, but I was really excited to see him. He was shaking off the rest a little bit, missed those first 6 shots, but he eventually did get it going. But I like how you touched on the point of him and Devin Booker being out there because what I took from the game was like Kevin Durant got so many easy, like he was not chasing these 16 points. He got those 16 points just at the flow of the game, just at the ease, just by being on the opposite side of Devin Booker. I mean, Devin Booker attracts so much defensive attention that
mm,
if you just swing the rock, I mean, you were swinging the rock to Kevin Durant, arguably the greatest scorer of all time, just to be able to naturally flow into his jumper, naturally be able to get buckets. And I agree with you, man. I think the Suns are very scary. They're not a team that like DeMar DeRozan. I think DeMar DeRozan has to chase his points. He has to really go get it versus a player like Kevin Durant on the Suns. It just will come to him, and because of that. And I think come playoffs, Devin Booker is gonna. It's vice versa. Devin Booker is gonna get so many easy looks. Kevin Durant's
mm.
gonna get so many easy looks, and I mean, the only concern I have with the Suns, to be honest with you, my brother, is the fact that they haven't really got as many games under their belt as a team
Yeah.
together in chemistry. And I mean, this team, in my opinion, is championship or bust. And when you're playing finals teams, they're also well put together, right? The Bucks team is also talented, but they have the team chemistry. They've been doing this together for a couple of years. So that's what I want to get your thoughts on. Are you worried about the Suns' lack of chemistry coming into playoffs?
Yeah, I'm really worried. I wouldn't pick them to win this year. I think they're leaning towards next year when they can really get the games under their belt. I'm kind of concerned of what's going to happen when they face adversity. Kind of like how they kind of faced adversity when Katie was struggling, but they were at home and the home crowd was crazy because it was Katie's first game. It's going to be interesting to see them in the playoffs in a scenario against a team like the Clippers who have some bodies to throw at both D Book and KD. Hopefully, Paul George is healthy. But it's going to be interesting to see the Suns in a scenario where they're getting nothing from CP3 because we know that's going to happen at some point in the playoffs at his age. And then Aiden kind of becomes invisible. Can they overcome that? Do they have the depth to overcome that? And of course, they don't really have much shooters outside of KD and D Book. Like a Koji's hit or miss, Craig's hit or miss. Terrence Ross is either going 16 for 16 or 0 for 24. So there's definitely concern. Can they overcome adversity? Or are they going to crumble? Because we saw last year against the Dallas Mavericks, they kind of crumbled. And that same scenario is going to happen. Do they have that extra gear? And only having like 10 games under your belt with KD, that could be tough to overcome, like going up against a team like the Nuggets or the Warriors who've been together for years. So that's a concern for sure for me.
Yeah, I'm definitely right there with you. Concerned about that. I mean, talent wise, they got it. On paper wise, they got it. But we know that playoffs, it's not just that talent, man. It's coaching, it's mental, it's leadership, it's experience.
Mm.
I think all that is gonna play into a part. And I mean, hey man, if CP doesn't get it this year, you might not get it, man. No more. To be honest.
Yeah.
So CP better be on KD, man. Better be in the gym.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
all right, so let's get to our next news here that we have, and that is some huge news in the NBA, man. I'm talking instrumental news. The Kings made the playoffs for the first
Mm.
time in 16 years since 2006. So give me your thoughts on that. How do you feel about the Kings, and are you happy for them? How you feeling?
I'm very happy for the Kings. I think they're one of the most entertaining watches in the league this year with how they play. They kind of play like the Warriors because Mike Brown brought that system and they just play super fast with De'Aaron Fox. And Sabonis is kind of like a mini Nikola Jokic. So I love the Kings. They got a lot of firepower offensively with Herter and Malik Monk. Their home crowd is ridiculous. I mean, you can just tell those fans have been waiting so long to celebrate a playoff run. So I think people are kind of sleeping on the Kings. I would, if I were like the Warriors or the Suns or the Clippers, I would want to face them because they are young and inexperienced. But at the same time, their offense is going to put up points. And I think Mike Brown, he's learned from Steve Kerr, and he also took that Cavs team with LeBron, rookie LeBron or young LeBron to the finals when there really wasn't much talent outside LeBron James. So I think little too much negativity around the Kings. They can definitely get to the conference finals, in my opinion, because the West is so wide open. There's no dominant team in the West right now.
Yeah, man, the West is really like wide open. I mean, I actually just tweeted it last night. I said from the 6th seed to the 11th seed, it's a 3-game separation, and I don't think we've seen this in years, man. And what we also haven't seen in years is the Kings making the playoffs. So that's super exciting. I actually am. I mean, in California, I'm probably about like 45 minutes away from Sacramento. So I go up to the Kings game sometimes. I'm definitely going to be catching some of those playoff games because that whole rumor here going around the league that the King Stadium is the loudest arena right now. Yes, absolutely is true. I've been to the Chase Center, been to the Staples Center, and I've been to the Golden One Arena. And man, I'm telling you, that Golden One Arena gets loud in there this year. So yeah, I'm very, very happy for the Kings. We'll get into the Kings a little bit more later in the episode. But I just wanted to get your thought on that. But let's go ahead and get to our last little news around the league. And that is Julius Randle, man. Julius Randle out for at least 2 weeks with a sprained ankle. You hate to see it right when Knicks and Julius Randle were starting to pick it up. So talk to me your thoughts about this injury, and are you concerned with the Knicks spot?
It's definitely concerning because he brings a lot of their offense. But Jalen Brunson, I'm looking at their schedule. I see the Wizards. I see the Pacers. I see the Pelicans. I think Julius Randle can get them over the hump and just get them to the playoffs. Probably still in that same 5th seed because I don't think the Brooklyn Nets will overtake them since they're 2.5 games up. So I think they'll be fine. Hopefully he's back for the first round of the playoffs. But it does suck, and they definitely need his offense. But I think Jalen Brunson has shown he's the most important piece to the puzzle for the Knicks because he keeps everything together and he makes Julius Randle's negatives with his attitude and stuff. Jalen Brunson kind of calms that down. So if they have Jalen Brunson, they should be fine.
Yeah, I'll side with you right there. I do think they'll be able to stay in that 5th seed. The only real concern that I have is I feel like, as playoffs rolls around and if Julius Randle does miss some time, early in playoffs, we all know the game is played much different in playoffs. And Jalen Brunson every year, I don't know if he can continue to be this regular season superstar that he's been come playoffs because the defenses are played different. They play slower game, more of a half-court game. He is a smaller guard, so he would get really bullied on the defensive end a little bit more. So I definitely have some concern for the Knicks because they're 2 games. I believe, they're 2 games in front of the. They're 2 games in front of the 6th seed, and then they're about 3-4 games in front of the 7th seed. I don't have no concern they're going to drop to the 7th seed. But I do ultimately think that if the Knicks want to do anything in the playoffs, they are going to need both Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson out there.
For sure.
Okay. All right, cool, my guy. So let's go ahead and get to the main event from the episode here, and that is these top five teams with the most pressure to win a championship. So for this segment, we'll just talk about some of these teams that we think have the most pressure and why. So we'll go ahead and get into it. I don't know if you want to run off your whole 5. You want me to run off my whole 5, or you want to kind of do a little back and forth?
Let's go back and forth.
Okay. All right. You go ahead. Go first. Let me know what's your first team.
Okay. So we're gonna start at the number 5 position.
Yeah, number 5.
How we're gonna do it.
Yep.
Okay. I'm thinking number 5. I think this might be too soon, but I think the Nuggets are number 5, just because they got a 2-time MVP. I think they have to make the conference finals, or it's gonna look bad on Jokic's end. Um, but honestly, that roster, there's some flaws in there, especially defensively. So the reason they're at 5 and not lower is just because like I could see them losing to the Lakers. I'm not even gonna lie. So, but just having a 2-time MVP, like you have championship or bust expectations.
Okay, I like that. See, I wanted to go with Denver at my fifth, but I just kept flip flopping and I switched it to
Mm.
actually the Dallas Mavericks. I got the Dallas Mavericks
Ooh,
as a fifth one with most pressure because I think if you don't win a championship this year, this whole Kyrie rental was not worth it. Because in my
uh,
opinion, unless the Mavs win, like Kyrie doesn't stay. Kyrie goes unless the Mavs are able to win and win him over and say like, all right, I'm in a winning situation. I got a team that's gonna trust in me, give me the money that I want. So basically, if you don't win this year, you just lost Spencer Dinwiddie, who was, don't get me wrong, he was inconsistent, but he was important to the team's offensive end a lot of times. Dorian Finney-Smith, who was extremely important to the team. He was a major part of the defense that was already lacking. So you lost those two guys. And if you don't win this year and Kyrie walks, you lost him for what? For nothing. And
yeah.
then you might even risk losing Luka because who knows how long Luka will want to be there. Like, all right, cool. We lost Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Kyrie. Now I'm back to starting point one. Who knows if Luka really wants to go through that, man?
Yeah, that's a good point. That Kyrie trade is looking worse and worse every day, especially if they don't get into the play-in, which it's looking like they probably won't because the Thunder have a really easy schedule moving forward.
Yeah, man, that's it. I had actually we're going to talk about that as well too later in the episode. Is the Mavs are going to get into that play, and I don't think so, but we'll get into some more reasons later on. But let me know your fourth team.
I would say the Clippers, number 4, because if they don't win this year, it's kind of like, do we restart? Should Paul George go? Like, what are we doing here? Kawhi might get a little pissed off because he's getting on the older side, and they don't really have much assets to make a big splash anymore. So I think the Clippers, because they've had championship or bust expectations for so many years now, and they can't stay healthy. This is a time to strike because when Kawhi gets into the playoffs, you can beat anyone. That's for sure. So as long as you got a healthy Kawhi, you got a chance. But if you start losing, like they're probably going to lose this year, I don't expect them to win the championship because they've been inconsistent. Then, who knows what happens next for the Clippers? Do they rebuild or retool?
Man, I'm right there with you. I also have the Clippers right there. When you look and think about it, they've had the right pieces. So they've had the two superstars in Kawhi and PG now for 3 years. They've been together.
Mm-hmm.
They've had the right pieces around them. They've gone through several role players like Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell. They've just ran through Reggie Jackson, ran through now they brought Eric Gordon. So they've had a whole bunch of role players that's ran through that team and it's either not worked or they've just always blamed somebody else. They've
Mm-hmm.
had depending on how you look at it, they've had Doc Rivers, a relatively good coach. Some people wouldn't say he's the greatest coach. Some people would say, like, I mean, he's a championship coach at the end of the day, right? At least I'm going to give him that. In my opinion, I feel like every single year, all I hear are excuses, 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 and they fly under the radar. Why? And I'm not even only saying this because I'm a Lakers fan. They're the little bros. They're the little brothers of the Lakers, and if they don't do good, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't hit the TV, it doesn't hit news, it doesn't hit media because it's like, oh
Mm-hmm.
well, we're worried about the Lakers. Oh, the Lakers aren't doing good, or the Lakers won, or the Lakers lost. They're never really worried about the Clippers, and I'm done with that. I'm done with the Clippers flying under the radar, man. They've had the pieces, they've had the stars. Depending on how you want to look at it, they've had the coaches. No more excuses, man. It's time for them to do it.
Yep. That's a really good point. I'm going to number 3 now. I got the number 3. I got the Golden State Warriors because they're there's a lot of internal issues going on involving their front office. And this could be like the last year of Draymond, Clay, and Steph Curry being together. And we've seen when those 3 are healthy, it's really hard to beat them in a series. But in terms of money issues, they might lose Draymond. There's some rumors going around that he might leave. So I think if the Warriors don't get far, they're like a first round exit. That could implode the dynasty that they built. So I think this is a huge year for them, because it might be their last year to really compete for a title with the core three that has been around, along with Steve Kerr and Bob Myers. So that's why I got the Warriors there.
I like that. I like that pick a lot. That'd be crazy if we do see the Warriors dynasty end, because I mean, from our age and where we've been watching basketball around,
Mm.
like, 2014, 2015 is when they kind of really started to take off and evolve and really completely change the game in a whole new way. And the game's played in a whole different way now because of them. They started that trend, and now to see maybe the dynasty come to an end, that's big. Not gonna lie, that's huge. But that's not who I have in my third seed. My third team. My third team, I have the Nuggets. You talked about it. I mean, I just said excuses, right? I think with the Nuggets, I'm constantly hearing excuses this season. And I mean, some of those excuses are like acceptable, right? The whole
Hmm.
MPJ situation. I mean, he was an important player, and then he was out for heck long. Jamal Murray situation. I understand that, but this season, there's no excuses. They've had the healthiest roster all season long. So out of the entire NBA, their starting five has played the most games together. They got the stars. They got players like Aaron Gordon having arguably an all-star season. MPJ stepping up to the plate. Jamal Murray just yesterday. I know they lost to the Pelicans, but he was trying to do his thing while Jokic was out. So they got everything that they need. Jokic is a back-to-back MVP. And look at this. As a MVP, especially as a back-to-back MVP, you need to be competing for the title every single year, because that means that you are either the best player or close to the best player in the league. So in my opinion, you need to be, if not in the finals, getting close to the finals, making a serious finals push and a serious finals run. And for Jokic to honestly not even be in the conversation this last couple of years of, not just Jokic and the Nuggets, not even in the conversation of, being able to get a ring. I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on them, man, because he's always getting a pass. But I feel like the NBA media is coming down on him as of late. And
Yeah.
so I don't think he's going to get a pass no more this year. I think the hammer's coming down on him if he doesn't win this year.
Yep. I agree with that. So number two, I got the Sixers because James Harden seems like he's playing the best basketball he has played for the Sixers, definitely compared to last year. He was a shell of himself, especially in the playoffs. Who knows if he'll be a shell of himself, because he's dealing with an Achilles injury supposedly for a bit now. But it seems like he's way better than last year. His 3-point shot's better. Joel Embiid, I just need him to stay healthy for one playoff run. Please, basketball guys, just give him one healthy playoff run, because throughout his career, he hasn't gotten one. And he's a little banged up right now, but him being a little banged up is basically him being 100% healthy. And I believe this is the most complete team they've had around Joel Embiid. Going back to the Jimmy Butler team, I would say that was their best team, but Joel Embiid was nowhere near the caliber player he was with that Jimmy Butler team. And also, that bench was terrible. They had Greg Monroe coming off the bench and James Ennis. Now you got DeAnthony Melton, Jalen McDaniels, Daniel House in certain matchups, and George Niang. He can play against the Bucks. He plays really well against the Bucks. So I believe this is the most complete team they have. They also got Tyrese Maxey, who's going to be a productive 20 efficiently. And hopefully Tobias Harris is the good version of him. But there's no more excuses. I know Doc Rivers is a iffy coach, but if Joel Embiid's healthy, they should get past the second round. There's no excuses. And then once you get past the second round, anything could happen, but the pressure should be on them. I would not be mad if you had them at the 1 position. But I'm just putting them at the 2 position because my next team, I believe they're the best team in basketball, and there's no debate about that. But yep, that's why I got the Sixers number 2.
Okay, so I almost went Sixers 1, but I'm not, and I'll get into why I got my number 1 team, and I think we might have the same number 1 team. But coming down my number 2 spot, I also have the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, you said it best. The only thing I would add is that Joel Embiid is 29. He has no MVPs, no Eastern Conference Finals, no rings. He has nothing to really show for. Don't get me wrong, he's a great player. Like for people who watch the game, for people who understand basketball, he got, in my opinion, he got robbed of one of those Jokic MVPs. Like I think he should have had at least one of those Jokic back-to-back MVPs. So he got robbed for one. But when we look at it, he still has no MVP, still no ring, still no Eastern Conference Finals. 29 years old, got to be feeling that pressure. And I think I love that point that you brought up of like every single year we've seen Joel Embiid dominant, but maybe his co-star, his teammates, maybe not so dominant. Joel Embiid dominating Ben Simmons with the whole Ben Simmons situation. Joel Embiid dominating other Tobias Harris, not stepping up to the player that Tobias Harris once was. So he's always had someone holding him back. And I think this year with James Harden, depending on how you look at the numbers, arguably having the best career of his season, especially definitely setting Joel up and assist wise, and just being a playmaker, 100% best season of his career. I mean, the Sixers got to go after it. I always said the championship window is like this big, man. So if you got a chance for it, you go all in, you do everything you can to get it done. So that's what I got in my number 2. I'm really interested to hear your number 1.
My number 1 is the Celtics because I mean, if you look at their roster, there's no flaws on their roster. I believe if they lost to the Bucks or the Sixers, it would be because it self-inflicted wounds, because the matchup for the Sixers is tough because they got Al Horford and Embiid likes to sit in the paint. Brook Lopez likes to sit in the paint. Giannis likes to sit in the paint. So when you have a 5-out offense, you're going to get threes for days. And if you're hitting those threes, it's going to be very tough for the Bucks and Sixers to beat them. And then not only that, they got Malcolm Brogdon, who would start on pretty much any other team in the league coming off the bench. Like, come on, it's going to take a Jason Tatum disaster class to really lose to the Bucks or Sixers. In my opinion, I just think they have the most complete roster and they match up well against every team. And it seems like the other teams is a matchup nightmare to go against the Celtics. Now we've seen them kind of struggle in the second half of the season, but once again, I believe that's because just self-inflicted wounds, like them coming out, relaxing, taking too many threes, not really driving to the basket as much, kind of getting a little too cocky, not taking care of business. So I just think the Celtics are just so far above roster-wise, basically every team in the league, in my opinion.
Man, you have no idea how happy I am to hear you say that. Look, so I've been having a conversation with my brother or like just other homies that watch the NBA, and that's been my take. The Celtics have been the best team in the league. I think hands down. I think there's not really a debate. I know that the Bucks have a better record, but I think just when you look at their team, look at their whole, look at their totality, I think the Celtics have been the best team. And you're the first person that I've gotten that like totally agrees with me, right? Like a lot of people are like, I don't think it's so clear. It could maybe be the Bucks. A lot of people have even thrown me even say even the Sixers as far as that might be a stretch, but some people have done that. But I think at the end of the day, the Celtics do have the deepest roster in the league. And last year, the reason why they have the biggest pressure to win a championship this year is last year they choked on the biggest stage possible, like the biggest stage of them all, right? And like Jason Tatum, I'm a big Kobe guy. That's actually why I'm a Lakers fan. I got it. That's how I got into the Lakers, is because, Kobe. And Jason Tatum always talks about Kobe. And Kobe Bryant talks about in the '08 when he lost against the Celtics. He said like that was a scar tissue loss. Like he held on to that, and that was the worst loss of his career. And then 2010, they came back and won. He was like, that was one of the best wins of my life. So I think if Jason Tatum, wants to embrace that Kobe, that mama mentality, that all that he's always talking about, this is when he needs to show it, because he of more than anyone on that squad, I think choked last year in that finals. Because as a star player, as the MVP, as the best player on the team, once we get to a certain level, I gotta be able just to give you the ball and say, please go get it done for us. And he just wasn't able to do that. And then you talk about the great roster. If you don't win this window, if you don't win the championship and Jaylen Brown leaves, you will never have a roster this good ever again. I'm not saying Jaylen Brown's going to win MVP, but his numbers are like, they're not far from an MVP candidate numbers. So, yeah. I mean, I would say if you don't win this championship this year and Jaylen Brown leaves because he's a free agent at the end of next year, you you just lost a lifetime opportunity.
That's my only hope as a Sixers fan. Like maybe there's a little internal trouble going on because of the Jaylen Brown situations. Like those comments Jaylen Brown made like a week ago, like that's a little discouraging to hear if I'm a Celtics fan, because like you're trying to win a title and this dude's talking about not feeling the love from the fans and the organization, but you're trying to win the title. And maybe Udoka was a bit bigger reason they made it, because there have been times throughout the Celtics run that they look kind of mentally fragile, or they kind of like crumble under the pressure. And Udoka was that guy who would go in the press conference and call them out for their stuff. So maybe Udoka was a huge reason why he kept everyone together and called out Jason and Jaylen Brown for when they took their foot off the gas pedal, because we've seen them lose to the Rockets this year, and really just they should have had the first seed locked up easily. They should have locked up the first seed, but they took their foot off the gas. So maybe Missoula is just not that guy. That's my only hope. But at the end of the day, you saw yesterday putting up 140 against the Bucks like it was nothing. So it's like when this team's locked in and they're together and Jason Tatum is playing like he's capable of, I don't see how you can beat him. It's going to take self-inflicted wounds, like I said.
Absolutely. I have nothing to add to that, and I'm happy we are in agreement with that. And I'm not gonna lie, it hurts my heart to say that as a Lakers fan, man. It hurts my heart, but that's how great they are. You know what I'm saying? I gotta give it to them. That's how great they are.
Their defense. I mean, I think that's a big difference from last year. Their defense was their calling card, and their defense kind of took a step back this year. But you see when they're at their best, their defense, their top 5 defense when they're locked in. And now their offense seemed to have upgrade from Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White stepping up, Jason Tatum getting a little better, having finals experience under his belt, getting defended like a Kobe. He has that under his belt. So I think the offense is just naturally better, and they have that they have that top 5 defense when they want it. But this year, they kind of took the foot off the gas at times, and the defense has kind of, in terms of stats, gone downhill. But offensively and defensively, you can make an argument top 5 in both categories, and that's how you get to the finals, if we're being real.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you feel comfortable giving Joe Mazzulla, and we don't got to get too crazy into this, but would you feel comfortable giving Joe Mazzulla the Coach of the Year?
I think I got to go Mike Brown. For sure.
Okay. I heard that take this morning. See, the only reason why I wanted to ask that is because, I mean, the Celtics are doing this, and when you look at what happened, like Joe Mazzulla got given his team 4 days before training camp. He was told that he's going to be the head coach 4 days before training camp. And don't get me wrong, the players do it. The players are out there scoring. They're on the court, but the coaches have a big part of what's going on and strategy and all that. So I think for the Celtics to still be a top 2 seed at this point, I'd be looking at Joe Mazzulla, man. But Mike Brown, he did make history, so got to give him that.
That is true.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead and get to our last segment of the show here, brother, and that is the yay or nay. Very simple. I got a statement here. You let me know if you're, yay on it or nay, and we could discuss it a little bit further. So I talked about it earlier. I said we were going to talk about the Mavs. So let's go ahead and get into it, man. Yay or nay? Will the Mavs make the play-in? They're currently sitting at the 11th seed, 1 game away from the 10th seed.
I think they will. The reason is because I think OKC has a couple more losses under their belt, even though they got they got the Suns and the Warriors, OKC. Yeah, I think the Mavs should get over OKC because Shea has been like sitting out a couple of games. So he's probably going to sit out a couple more games if that injury is for real. So I think Dallas should get in the play-in. Do they win the play-in? Who knows? But I think they should.
Man, I'll be honest with you, brother. I went back and forth with this a whole bunch of times, and I kept looking at OKC schedule, kept looking at Mavs schedule, and I mean, it's not clear which one is harder. Both play some top teams, both also play some bottom feeder teams, so it's not clear which one is harder. So with my answer, I'm gonna go with yes, they make the play-in, so yay for that, because I just have to trust in Kyrie and Luka, right? I mean, I have to trust that Kyrie, Luka, and that entire team has to rally around and say, y'all, like, we didn't bring Kyrie here to miss the play-in. Like, we need to do this. Like, we got to come together, and however they do it. And at the end of the day, I mean, if I'm gonna be a betting man, I'm gonna put my money on Luka and Kyrie versus Oklahoma City Thunder that's been sitting Shea a couple of games.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and go with yay. They do make the play in, but I think it could be a bounce in the first game or so in the play.
Yeah. I seen Mavs fans wanting to tank, and I was like, "What? You're trying to tank with Luca? Like, say they get into the play and they win and they get the 8th seed. You're telling me Luca can't give them a chance against that Nuggets team? I mean, I've seen Luca play up against Paul George and Kawhi and take them to 7 games. Like, even though they look terrible right now, Luca is a different being in the playoffs. I'm not saying they would beat the Nuggets, but I think if Luka's on top of his game, Kyrie's on top of his game, and those shooters are making wide open shots, like the shot quality Luka produces, I give them a fighter's chance against anyone because you got prime Luka and his game rises in the playoffs.
Absolutely, man. I'm noted on the record of saying multiple times, like, when you have 2 players of that caliber, when you have those players that are just, don't get me wrong, Kyrie's a first class prima donna. Don't get me wrong, he's annoying, all this and that. Don't get me wrong, but he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. Luka is going to be a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. And when I say when you have 2 players of that caliber on your team, you have a chance. You have a shot. Now, how great of a shot do you have? That depends on coaches, surrounding pieces. But as long as you have 2 great players like that, you always have a shot. And I mean, I wouldn't be too worried. I mean, they played the Denver Nuggets. I don't have all my money on the Nuggets here. I mean, the majority of my money would be on the Nuggets, but it's not a clear choice here, man. I mean, Luka and Kyrie could pick it up, and what Luka did to the Suns were a better team than the Mavs, but then Luka by himself torched the Suns. By himself, just tore up that whole team. So I gotta go.
The Suns. The Suns were a 64 win team. People forget they were a 64 win team, and he made them look like a 40 win team.
Man, oh man, yeah, that would be crazy. If somehow the Mavs sneak in there and then knock out the Denver Nuggets in the first round, my head would just spin upside down. That'd be crazy, man. But
I would love it.
I would love to see it. I would love to see it. I would love to see it. But all right, brother, this question, you gonna love this question right here. All right, yay or nay?
Oh,
are the 76ers serious title contenders?
I think yay. I think the offense has been a top 5 offense. They haven't had that throughout the Embiid era. And their defense is somehow a top 10 defense. Eye test wise, I do not see their defense as good as that. But I don't know. It seems like I really trust their offense if Harden is healthy and Embiid's healthy. I think they have the offensive firepower, and they got some pieces defensively. Of course, Embiid as the rim protector. Definitely a more complete team than ever before. But like I said, it all hinges on Joel Embiid's health. And thus far in his NBA career, he has shown he can't stay healthy playoff-wise, even though a lot of those injuries, like a Siakam elbow to the face when we were up by like 30 points, unlucky stuff. But at this point, you can't say it's unlucky because it's a consistent thing. So I'm banking on him probably missing a couple of games, and that's going to hurt them. Because last year, if he's healthy during that Heat series, I mean, I think they take them to 7 games or they win in 6 because you saw the difference he made, and he was a shell of himself in that Heat series. So it just all hinges on Embiid's health, but that's a thing. He's never healthy in playoffs.
Okay, I like that. So I agree with you. I'm yay. I think they're serious title contenders, but here's my caveat. I think they're serious title contenders because of Joel Embiid, James Harden, and the roster they have. But honestly, I'll be honest, brother, I can't see a scenario, and I tried really hard last night. I was trying to think of it. I can't see a scenario where they beat the Bucks or the Celtics in the 7-game series. I'm just having a very.
I don't see the Celtics. I see the Bucks because I think we match up well. Like there's a lot of guys on the Bucks like Joe Ingles, Grayson Allen, Chris Middleton, even though they got the number one defense or whatever, I don't trust their defense outside of Giannis, Brook Lopez, and Drew Holiday. But outside of them, like there's a lot of pieces that Harden can mismatch hunt, and you can put him in a pick and roll. And I was like the last Bucks Sixers game, they made Harden look like Houston Harden. One thing he never does is get to the rim and lay it up consistently, easily. And that dude was getting to the rim easier than I've ever seen in a Sixers uniform. And it was against the Bucks because they had Jay Crowder, who I think has taken a step back defensively. Joe Ingles, terrible. Grayson Allen. I'm wondering why Pat Connaughton's not in the rotation. That's just weird to me. And Chris Middleton, not only offensively, but defensively, he's taken a step back. And a lot of people forget the Bucks were a top 5 offense during their championship run, and they relied on Chris Middleton's shot making. And right now, his game against the Nuggets last time, he was inefficient. Last night against the Celtics, inefficient. Sixers, he got played off the court defensively, and he was inefficient. Not having Chris Middleton to where he was during that finals run, that's why I don't believe in the Bucks. Now, Chris Middleton can easily turn it on in the playoffs. But if the Bucks do get past the Celtics or the Sixers, it's going to take Chris Middleton averaging 20 points efficiently. And what I've seen thus far in the regular season, I don't know if he has that in him, just health-wise.
I'll definitely give you that because I have noticed that. I mean, Chris Middleton has not been the same. And I mean, one thing that I've said last year is like Giannis has been the player for the Bucks 1 through 3, and Chris Middleton has been the closer. Chris Middleton he was the closer for them last year, and he's going to have to be the closer for them this year because like how we've mentioned before, playoffs, the game is played differently, and they're going to kind of make Giannis shoot a little more. And don't get me wrong, Giannis has worked on his jumper a lot, but I don't think nobody's, confident on Giannis's him just shooting just consistent, just those consistent jumpers. Unless he's playing the Lakers, because then he'll just get off. He'll just start hitting every three. But yeah, I mean, if you got to choose between Chris Middleton just getting all these jumpers and Giannis getting all these jumpers up, you're definitely gonna go with Giannis. And if Chris Middleton isn't that closer, then I agree that could bring them some trouble. The only reason why I was leaning more for the Bucks is just on the experience side. I mean, if we're at an Eastern Conference Finals, as big, I don't think anyone anyone that's getting big minutes on that Sixers squad really been there like that. So that's the only reason I go for that. But before we get off the Sixers, I want to ask you something. So right now we got the Bucks as the first seed, Celtics as the second seed, and then we have the 76ers as the third seed. I think the Bucks and the Celtics are in a class of their own. Bucks are maybe a tier below them. The 76ers, you made a great argument, made a great debate on as to maybe they could be right there with the Bucks or maybe just right a little bit below. But what I want to ask you is, where are the Cavs? Are they clearly a tier below the 76ers, or are they right there as well?
Oh no, they're right there. And I think Donovan Mitchell, I mean, he can go off against any team. Plus defensively, if they go up against the Bucks, which I believe they would if they got past the Knicks, which Knicks are a quality team, they could definitely beat the Cavs. But if they go up against the Bucks, they got some bodies to throw at Giannis, like Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and Lamar Stevens. I mean, you got a bunch of big bodies physically who can at least stand a chance against Giannis. I mean, I don't think they're going to have success, but it's better than a lot of other teams. So having Donovan Mitchell, I think you have a chance to outscore the Bucks, maybe, but it's going to be tough. I think they're a little under the Bucks, Celtics, Sixers, but I think they can take the Bucks like 6 games, kind of like the Hawks did a few years ago. But if the Sixers played the Bucks, I mean, if the Sixers play the Cavs, I would be a little scared because D. Mitch and Garland, they can get buckets, and defensively, they got some rim protection.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I do think this, like I mentioned, the Celtics are head and heels above everyone. But the only place I would disagree a little bit is I think that the Sixers they're a tier above the Cavs, only because I don't know if the Cavs are balling out, but the Cavs are doing this like as a whole, as a collective, as a squad. And I mean, the Sixers are too as well. But when you have an MVP type caliber player, when you could just say like, "Yo, like I'm like everything has broken down, the offense is broken down. We've tried to run all these plays, nothing has worked. Can you just go get us a bucket?" I, I think there's a huge separation between Joel Embiid and Donovan Mitchell. And don't get me wrong, Donovan Mitchell is a great player. Beginning of the season, I was very high on the Cavaliers, but I mean, I think when we're just looking at tiers, I do think they'd be a tier below the 76ers, and that would be a really good matchup, actually. 76ers and Cavs, that'd be a really good matchup. They'd be going at it. I mean, that'd be kind of, Joel Embiid would have to kind of by himself handle Jared Allen, be able to take on Mobley, be able to take on Robin Lopez. I mean, they're just going to be throwing bodies at them, and then the guard position. I mean, I think that's the Cavs probably got a little, as a whole, probably got better guards than the 76ers. So that would be a really even matchup. Great matchup, actually. Didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think the one thing that's stopping me from believing in the Cavs is they got no shooting. So I think teams are just going to pack the paint and live with Okoro shooting threes, live with Evan Mobley shooting threes, and who's ever out there. So that's why I believe they should put Karis LeVert in the starting lineup. Even though he's not as good of a shooter, he also brings a little more self-creation. And I think his game, even though his stats are down, his game trends towards the playoffs way better than a lot of those players that they play above him, like Lamar Stevens got 41 minutes against the Hawks. Like, why is Lamar Stevens getting 41 minutes? I understand he's better defensively, but offensively, he's probably just holding you back because, I mean, you got Donovan Mitchell. You don't want just teams packing the paint and letting guys shoot who are probably not going to make threes.
Yeah. I definitely am right there with you here, my brother. So let's go ahead and get to the last statement that we have here for the yay or nay, and last statement that we have here for the episode. And we talked about at the beginning. I said, "Yo, brother, how do you feel about the Kings?" We were talking about it. They made the playoffs. So now I gotta ask, yay or nay? Are the Kings playoff pretenders?
Oh man, if they go up against the Warriors, I'm gonna have to say yay. Their defense is suspect. Honestly, I don't know. I could see it going both ways. I could see their offense being even better in the playoffs, even though the game does slow down. I think their defense can maybe take a step up because of Mike Brown, and he's shown that he can adjust in ways a lot of Western Conference coaches don't seem to adjust, in my opinion. So I got to see the first couple playoff games. Give me one playoff game for the Kings, and then I'll get back to you on that. But I'd probably say yay, because it just seems like they're going to have a bad matchup. Like, they're either going to face the Clippers, the Suns, or the Warriors. Like, that's not fair. Come on now.
Man, they're like, come on, this is my first time here.
Yeah. And then you got to face the Warriors. Like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, I feel you. I'm yay on that as well. I mean, I look at their roster. Only two players that have deep playoff experience is Harrison Barnes, who gets solid minutes, and Matthew Dellavedova, who is just there to be a vet. And I mean, he actually got a picture with him. I went to Kings game, got a picture with him. I might drop that right here in the video, man. But shout out Matthew Dellavedova. but that's besides the point. I think that yay, they are some playoff pretenders, because we talked about it earlier. We said, look, man, the playoffs is played differently. And what do the Kings do? The Kings are playing very fast paced, running and gunning. The playoff is slow down, half court set, and get into it from there. I don't know if they're going to really be able to continue that and continue that fast pace. I will say Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox half court pick and roll is great. I love that. I think that will be good for the playoffs. But ultimately, right now they are the third seed, and that means they would play the Warriors. No matter how good Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox's half court set pick and rolls are in playoffs, what matters is experience and being there. And the Warriors have nothing but experience. So I'm gonna have to go yay, man. I think they're some playoff pretenders.
Yeah, I would agree. And if the Warriors get Wiggins back too, that would be bad for the Kings, because Wiggins being out low key can be a blessing in disguise if he comes back, because Kuminga has really stepped up in terms of the Wiggins role. He's not as good, obviously, but if Wiggins does come back, then you got another trustable piece in Kuminga that the Warriors didn't have last year. And he's an athletic freak, and he's another body who can guard anyone. He can guard Luka, he can guard KD, he can guard D Book. He probably won't have success. He's going to get in foul trouble at times, but he's that archetype that is so crucial in the playoffs. And I think that's a aspect that not a lot of people are thinking about. Like Kuminga, he's gotten into the rotation because Wiggins has been out. And if Wiggins was there, he would not be in the rotation. So hopefully Wiggins comes back because he had a crazy year last year. And if he is back, the Warriors, they're beating anyone. Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. I do think, if Wiggins is back, the Warriors are now in the same position they were last year, which is, I mean, now title contenders, because I've said this a lot of times before. Last year, I did not pick the Warriors. I don't think anyone really had the Warriors winning the championship last year, but because of experience, because they had the right pieces, they were kind of flying under the radar during the regular season. I believe they finished as a 3rd seed last year, and then just turn it on during the playoffs because they know exactly how to do that. They got players that's been there. But what I will say is that Andrew Wiggins played an instrumental part in what the Warriors did last year. Instrumental, like playing amazing defense, guarding some of the best players on other teams. Was playing against Jason Tatum, really putting the clamps on him. Like, let's be honest, and still being able to produce a positive on the offensive end. So what I will say is this: if Andrew Wiggins doesn't come back for the playoffs, I do think the Warriors are going to be able to handle the Kings with or without Wiggins, only because of that experience factor. But moving forward from there, I don't think the Warriors go past anyone else without Andrew Wiggins. They're struggling on defense already. So to miss your best defensive player, very scary.
I will say I agree with that, but Clay was also kind of a shell of himself last year in the playoffs, and I think they're going to get a better version of Clay. Plus, I feel like Steph is better than he's ever been before, because last year in the finals, that was a crazy dominant performance from Steph. And it just seems like he's seen every type of defense, and he's more confident than he's ever been. So, like, having Steph against anyone, it's going to be tough to stop that, because he's playing the best basketball of his life, and he's just mentally higher than a lot of teams in the West, like in terms of facing any kind of defense. Plus, I think the factor that killed Boston last year is Steph's stamina is ridiculous. And I think a lot of times Steph was running around and Boston was gassed out of their mind. And Steph's like, I feel like it's the first quarter. So if you have Steph, you got a chance against anyone, especially in the wide open West. The only team I would probably pick against them is the Suns, Clippers, but Nuggets, Grizzlies, Kings. I'm picking the Warriors just based off past knowledge.
Yeah. No, I totally feel you, man. And if the Suns and the Warriors do play, I mean, that's gonna be, I feel like two worlds, going at like experience and chemistry, and we've been together since 2014, 2015, really doing this, versus we clearly got a better team, but let's see if we can put this together in 5, 6, 7 days. Let's see. Let's see, man. That'll be a great matchup. But all right. Well, I think this is a good place for us to go ahead and wrap it up here. This was a great episode, my brother. We covered a lot of things. We started with our fun little guess the player game, got into some news around the league, talked about our top 5 teams with the most pressure, then finished off with some yay or nay. My boy, do you have any last words to say before we get out of here? I know we got playoffs coming around the corner. You are a Sixers fan.
Just please, basketball gods, healthy run. I don't even care if we get a first round exit. Just give us a healthy run, because I believe if Embiid's healthy, he can finally get past the second round. And I don't got to hear any more second round jokes.
Y'all heard it here first, man. Come on, let's make it happen. Let's keep Embiid healthy, man. I love that.
And AD. Because the Lakers, they're taking out the Nuggets round 1.
Hey, I'll say this, man. The Lakers have not had the greatest season, and at the beginning of the season didn't have the greatest roster. But since that trade and since the whole new roster, and if they can put it together, the Lakers, in my opinion, are the scariest playing team, because you do not want to see a team with LeBron, Anthony Davis, and the right pieces around them that are now finally getting healthy. So I'll say that, man. I catch a lot of Lakers hate this year.
They can play defense and they can play offense, and you can't say that about a lot of teams in the West.
Man, oh man. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited just to show the world, man, or the Lakers show the world what they really about, man. But for the family out there, man, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As I said in the beginning, if you guys want to go check out all of Romp's work, it'll all be in the description down below. All his social medias, all of his YouTube channels, all that will be in the description down below. Make sure to get at him. Appreciate you, my guy, for giving us some time. And if that's it, then we out of here, y'all. Clutch Talk out.